wanted to be, rich one day? The rest of you guys daydream that you wanted to be poor one day when you were a kid? So I didn't know exactly how to do that. I pursued sports. I went out and played college baseball. When I was 18, I was introduced to the concept of entrepreneurship. I was introduced to this industry that you guys are looking at today or become a part of already. I made my first million at it when I was 25 and several times over since then. When I was 26, the company I was a part of went out of business. My partners and I, we bought out the company. We created by South with meeting Dr. Michael Simon. Did Dr. Michael Simon do a good job today? And we created by Salas in the first few years. We just kind of figured it out. We had some great sciences. We hadn't figured out quite the marketing yet. We hadn't figured out quite the compensation plan yet. We haven't quite figured out the management team yet. We hadn't quite figured out the technology aspect of it yet. But about 3 or so years ago, a little over 3 years ago, we created this thing. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's called the Body by Body Challenge. Anybody ever heard of that? And in 3 years, it's become the #1 90-day weight loss platform on the planet. Little noise for that. And it's the second largest weight loss company already in the United States. Just pure weight loss company. And we've only been doing this 3 years. You guys ever heard of Jenny Craig or Nutrisys? Have you heard of these guys? Right? Been around a long time. Jenny Craig, 30 plus years. We're already 50% larger than them, and we've only been doing it for 3 years. They've been doing it for 30 years. Then you got the biggest weight loss company right now in North America, Weight Watchers. A lot of respect for all of these companies, because anybody that fights obesity deserves to be respected. But they know we're coming. So much so that if you're on Weight Watchers and you drink our shake, they give you points on their system. How's that? It's like, what do we do about these guys? I don't know, let's give them points or something if they drink. They're not drinking their shakes, I don't give them points for it, I don't know. They keep showing up to these challenge parties, give them points for that too. There's no doubt in my mind that over the next few years we will be the #1 largest weight loss company in the world. You guys up for that journey? It's been a fantastic last 3.5 years, and the last few months has been a time of a lot of reflection, a time of a lot of internal, thinking and searching and dialoguing externally with my partners Blake and Ryan, and really getting clear on who it is that we are and what it is that we want to do. Where did this problem come from? What type of impact can we make? Asking ourselves a lot of questions and making a lot of big decisions. And today I can't wait to share with you some of those decisions that we made. I know that a lot of you guys have probably heard it through some of our language here the last couple months, or last 40 days really. And my keynote for all of you guys today is a little bit different than it normally would be at any other event. And it's sharing with you guys some of those decisions that my partners and I made over the last few months, and as to where this company is going, what the vision of the company is. See guys, first thing we got to do is I want all of us to look at this epidemic of obesity and spend a few minutes of time taking a look at this thing and how big it really is and where did it come from. You can never hear this enough times because a lot of times it doesn't sink in. I've heard it for years, but it hadn't really sunk in until recently. The fact that 70% of America is overweight, 63% of Canada is overweight, 60% of the world is overweight. I don't know if there's ever been anything in history that affected 70% of the people. The fact that obesity is the #1 fastest growing epidemic in the world, and that is the #1 cause of all degenerative diseases that are taking your friends and family members. The #1 cause. Well, my so-and-so of all degenerative diseases is one thing and one thing only: obesity. And the best thing that we can do for people in their health, the biggest difference that we can make for people and all these other issues that they're having, is to fight obesity. That's the best thing that we can do for them. That's the best thing that you can do for your community. One of the most powerful pieces of information that I learned recently, which is by far the scariest, for the first time ever in humanity, and humanity's been around for a little while, for the first time ever in humanity, there are more people who are classified as overweight on this planet than are classified as malnutrition. Which means, for the first time ever in humanity, more people are eating too much than don't have enough to eat. See, this is no longer a problem that you can just turn your back on, that can be swept underneath the rug, that we can laugh about. It's not funny. Not anymore. It's a major problem that came out of nowhere over the last 100 years. 100 years ago, this was not a problem. Today, it affects 70% of Americans. 70%. There's nothing that I've ever heard of that's affected 70% of a population. You know, I look at historically, you know, the first ladies, they always focus on one major issue that they can focus on for 4 years. I remember growing up, the campaign was just say no to what? Some of you guys remember that campaign, right? That was a major issue. Drugs was a major issue. Do you understand that childhood obesity now is looked at as the same size as a problem as drugs were in the 80s to kids? Do you realize the magnitude of this problem? People say all the time, why don't we do something for kids? Why don't we focus on childhood obesity? We do. Fix the parents, fix the kids. I can teach a kid for years how to cook the right food, how to eat the right food, how to do all these things. It doesn't matter. Do they have buying power? Do they go grocery shopping? Do they cook their own food? Do they drive themselves to the restaurant? Change the parents, change the kids. And today it's about talking about changing the parents, which starts with all of us in this room. Taking individual, independent responsibility for this problem. Where did the problem come from? I'll take you back 100 years ago. What did the grand majority of all people do for a living 100 years ago for their career? Farming. And when you farm, you're very active. Is there any farmers in the room? Active? Very active. Now, farming today is obviously less active than it was 100 years ago because the machinery that they have today is very different than just horsepower. Right? It's like lots of nice machinery. But think about 100 years ago when none of that machinery existed. Did you need a gym membership if you were a farmer 100 years ago? Like, did you, after you got done working, turn to your other farmer buddy like, hey, it's leg day, you ready to go do some squats? Oh wait, no, let's go do our buys and tries today. You're like, I just got done building a 10-mile fence. Like this. I don't want to do curls too, right? And right around that same time frame, corporate America popped up. And what that did is it moved people out of active lifestyle careers into sedentary lifestyle careers. Put people behind cars, put people behind desks, put people in standing positions where they didn't move a lot. It took them out of manual labor careers. Please raise your hand if you are not in a manual labor career. Please raise your hand if you are not in a manual labor career. About 80% of the room. And I will argue that the 20% that didn't raise their hand are probably not in manual labor careers either. There's probably a few that are. So, by the millions. Today, raise your hand, women, if you have a job or a career. Please raise your hand, ladies. It's about 90% of the women. If I would have asked that question 70 years ago, it would have been 10% of the women that would raise your hand. Well, what happened? What does that mean? How does that have an impact? It's simple. Mom's at work, dad's at work. Nobody's spending the time to make good food, cook a good breakfast, make sure there's a good lunch made, make sure there's a good dinner made. Nobody's got the time, nobody's got the energy. Same time frame, right around World War II. This thing called franchising popped up. Fast food franchises over the last 70 years by the hundreds, by the thousands, by the tens of thousands. There's 35,000 McDonald's alone. 50 million people a day eat fast food. In the U.S., just the U.S., 50 million Americans a day eat fast food. And it makes sense. I mean, I understand why people turn to it. Mom and dad both got to go to work. They wake up, they live this. Raise your hand if you're busy. Everyone's busy. You wake up in the morning, you try to rush to get the kids ready for school just so you might be able to make it to work on time. Hopefully they make it to school on time. No time to make breakfast. You run over to the toaster, throw a couple Pop-Tarts in there, throw some Fruity Pebbles in a bowl, slide it over to the kid. You know what Pop-Tart I used to eat for breakfast when I was growing up? S'mores. That was my favorite Pop-Tart. Because nothing screams breakfast like fudge and marshmallow s'mores. You know what my favorite breakfast cereal was? Fruity Pebbles. They are neither fruit, there's neither any fruit nor pebbles in there. It's sugar flakes dyed different colors. So you rush like crazy, give the kids some of these things and throw them in the car, you get them dropped off, you run into work, you stop, coffee shop. Run across the street to the coffee shop, you got 3, 4, 5 minutes before the boss is gonna notice. You run over there, you grab a extra latte grande frappuccino cream thing with some sprinkle stuff on top. But you know that's not breakfast. You've been raised better than that. So you look down at that glass window. There's something for breakfast in that glass window. You grab like the cheese Danish, or maybe it's one of those chocolate chip muffins. Do you guys know what I call chocolate chip muffins? It's called chocolate cake. A muffin is cake. So for breakfast, you got the giant frappuccino thing with cream and some cake. And not healthy cake, by the way, some real cake. You run upstairs and you work like crazy till lunch. Got an hour lunch break, and it's never an hour. It's never an hour. You work a few minutes too long at a conference call, doing some paperwork, finishing the last email. Now you gotta run like crazy down the elevator, get across the street. Pizza by the slice. Run in, grab a slice of pizza, breadstick, Coke. No, sorry. Pizza, breadstick, and because you're very health conscious, Diet Coke. You know, swing for the fences, it's pizza and a breadstick. Why are you gonna do the Diet Coke? You just go finish it off. It's crazy to me. Run back upstairs, eat the pizza, eat the breadstick, drink the Coke. A couple hours later, you get a little my wife calls it snacky. I guess that's a southern word, snacky. Who else says snacky? Raise your hand. I guess that's a southern word. All right. I thought she made it up. Like, snacky. You get a little snacky. So you grab a buck and you head down to that all-organic, whole food vending machine. You gotta throw a buck in there, grab yourself a nice bag of Cheetos, head back to the desk, maybe one of those rectangle Nutter Butter deals. I'm a fan of the Nutter Butters, right? Grab one. Head back to the desk, eat that, work's over. Uh-oh, gotta get the kids to practice. the number one problem in the world today. Solving one problem and creating another. Solving one problem, because I don't see anybody getting any less busy. I don't see that happening. No, none of you guys are going to get any less busy where you're going to have like your own organic garden in your backyard where, you know, you're just sitting there pruning things on like Kevin Merriman with the big pruning gloves on. It's not happening, right? You know, so that's not, and most people don't have the resources or the finances to go to, you know, Whole Foods every couple days to spend $500. How many of you guys have ever gone to Whole Foods and been really let down on how much you brought home for how much you spent, right? You know, I swear to you, Ash will go to Whole Foods every 3 to 4 days. She will always spend $300 to $400 and come back with 3 bags, and I'm always in the bags trying to find a flat screen TV. I'm looking for like a new watch or something. Nothing. Bananas, cashews. Like, man, it's a letdown. So most people aren't in a financial position where they can do that. So there's got to be a solution. See, because this is where obesity, where the problem stems from. I won't even get into things like crop rotation, the fact that nutritional value and the foods that are fresh have barely any of the same nutritional value of 30 or 40 years ago, because farmers have to make money, so they got to get that stuff out the door, and get out the door, and get out the door. Why? Because the population is growing. The amount of population is going up. The amount of farmers is going down. Get the stuff out the door, get the stuff out the door, get the stuff out the door. It doesn't have the same nutritional value. So even when you are eating things you think are nutritious, there's not enough nutrition in it. Need a solution. Need a solution. So understanding this problem, how many of you guys understand the problem now a little bit better, where it came from, how we got here, things like that? So myself, Blake, and Ryan made a decision. And for some of you might say, well, I thought that was already the decision. And I'd say, no, that was the direction, but it wasn't the decision. We made a decision that the 3 of us, we want to spend the rest of our lives in business doing nothing more than fighting obesity. That's the only thing that we want to do for the rest of our lives. There's a few reasons why. There's 3. Number 1 is we're emotionally attached to the transformation. Emotionally attached to the transformation. Where are my 100-pound losers at again? Stand up, my 100-pound losers. That gets me excited. I've watched Tony Bellman disappear over the last few years. And turn into a completely different human being. From a guy that couldn't even get on stage to a guy that's 100 pounds lighter, grabbing a microphone and rocking a crowd, cashing a big ambassador check. Right? He's a completely different human being. He's now a showdown champion as well. I'm emotionally attached to that. Now don't get me wrong, I love all the other crazy challenges that people do. I enjoy to hear about them. I laugh sometimes. I think they're fun. I get excited by them. I get wowed by some of the crazy stuff you guys can pull off. I enjoy the buy model stuff. I think it's fun. I think it's great marketing and branding. I love the cover of the magazine. But I'm not emotionally attached to it. How many of you guys get emotionally moved or have been emotionally moved by at least one story of transformation in your team? Raise your hand. So it's easy for you guys to understand what I'm talking about. How many of you guys would gladly get rich doing nothing more than getting those transformations over and over and over and over and over? That's something I can spend the rest of my life doing. But here's the second reason, okay? The second reason is the problem of obesity is even a larger issue. It's going to be harder and harder to get, high-end functional foods with high nutritional value to people's hands. So from a business perspective, it's the right thing to do. It's the smart thing to do. Here's the third reason. Social responsibility. It's an interesting phrase, I guess, or idea, concept. Social responsibility. How many of you have ever had somebody that tripped in front of you and your immediate initial reaction was to do what? Help up. That's social responsibility. I don't know what was said, but I'm sure it wasn't that good. Or when somebody, drops all the stuff they're carrying, what is your initial reaction, right? Bend down, help pick it up. It's kind of like a social responsibility thing. So one of the things that we realized 60 days ago, that you guys put us in position to understand or evaluate, is that as it stands today, we have the #1 largest army singularly focused on the epidemic of obesity. We have the #1 largest army in the world, ever assembled in the history of humanity, to fight the #1 fastest growing problem in the world. And you might say, well, Weight Watchers is bigger than us. You're right. But they don't have a 100,000 person army ready to fight obesity. They got some people, they got people in offices that write scripts for Charles Barkley, but they don't have a 100,000 person army ready to fight obesity. You might say, well, Herbalife's got a bigger army. And I say, you're right. Except Herbalife is not singularly focused on obesity. They sell hair care, they sell skincare, they sell lotions, they sell all kinds of stuff. Right now, there's one company that has the largest army ever assembled to be singularly focused on the epidemic of obesity. And it's this company right here. To us, we could sell anything with that army technically. We could sell hair care, we could sell skincare, we could do all that. But what we want to do is we want to focus this group of people on being singularly focused on this one problem. Because there's no one else in the world doing it, and definitely not our size. So here's what we're going to become. What our vision is a company that will transcend direct selling companies, will transcend our competitors, is we believe that we can become the largest provider of healthy fast food in the world. And I didn't say we believe we can be the largest provider of shakes in the world. I said we believe we can become the largest provider of healthy fast food in the world. Let's say there's nobody else doing that. There's nobody else with that focus. There's nobody else trying to accomplish that goal. There's nobody else with an army this big to pull it off. And if McDonald's is the largest provider of unhealthy fast food in the world, well, let me put them on notice. We're coming. I'm going to put my guy and Ronald McDonald in a cage match, and we're going to see who wins. And as an entrepreneur, because a lot of you guys here today are like, look, I want to learn about making money. I want to be a business owner. I want to be successful at it. There's 33,000 McDonald's, 35,000 McDonald's today. It's been said that if you own McDonald's for 4 years, you're a guaranteed millionaire. That's how many people eat it. If we could rival them, if we could become the equivalent for healthy fast food. I'm not worried about how successful our people are going to be financially. If we can be a company that provides a great service to the world, if we could be a company, the #1 company to fight obesity, if we could be a company to create the most transformations ever created, you better believe you're all going to be real rich doing this. You'll make more money than you can count if you create more transformations than you ever imagined. Because wow, there's a whole lot of people getting rich from McDonald's, and they're doing the opposite of creating transformations. And we're going to create thousands and thousands of millionaires by fighting the #1 fastest growing epidemic in the world today. Do I have any of those future millionaires in this room? And we're going to do it across the globe, guys. Across the planet. There are billions of people classified as overweight across the globe. And some of you guys are whining because your cousin won't buy the shakes. Who cares? And because your sister stopped taking them. So what? And because this person stopped drinking your shakes, now they're drinking Slim Fast. Whatever. There's billions of overweight people. And because of technology, because of social media today, right now, I don't care if you live in a town of 500 people, as long as you have high-speed internet, you will be transforming people's bodies in Asia, in Europe, in Australia, in South America. Without ever leaving that 500-person town. But on the flip side, how many guys wouldn't mind traveling the world and getting people skinny? Anybody? Five-star ambassador that had to do the keynote speech in Rome, Italy next weekend. Wouldn't that stink? I mean, wouldn't it be terrible if you were the five-star ambassador that had to do the product education piece in Buenos Aires? Wouldn't that be terrible? I mean, wouldn't it be a tough life if you were the five-star ambassador that had to do the comp plan in Sydney, Australia? Wouldn't that just be terrible? How many guys wouldn't mind doing a little bit of that, right? And that is not for everybody. I get that. Some of you guys are like, Buenos who? I'm going to Buenos Aires? What are you talking about? But I want you to understand that you all will have a global business. And you will be a part of being the #1 agent of change against obesity that the world's ever seen. And we will create something here that your kids and your grandkids will go, wait, what did mom and dad do? What did and people say, they fought obesity. They were the #1 company to fight obesity. She was the leader of the #1 company to fight obesity. And wouldn't it be cool if the place that was the most obese area of the country, inside of the most obese country in the world, that there was a group of 1,500 people that ran through the South. They ran throughout Georgia. And they ran throughout Mississippi. They ran throughout Alabama. Georgia, I'll give you another chance. They ran throughout Georgia. They ran throughout Mississippi. Florida. start with your family, and then your friends, your community, your city, your state. See guys, we've got to think globally and act locally. We're a global thinking company, but we can't do anything about it if you won't start in Alabama, and if you won't start in Mississippi, and if you won't start in North Carolina. You guys got to start locally. You got to start real locally. Start in your house. And if you do that, we can do this. See, to me, this isn't a pipe dream. If I would have gave this vision to you 3 years ago, which it wasn't the vision 3 years ago, it would have been a pipe dream. 3 years later, we're the second largest weight loss company in North America, with the #1 90-day weight loss challenge in the world, and we got the #1 army singularly focused on the epidemic of obesity. If it's not us, who the hell else is going to fight obesity? The number can only go 2 ways. It can only go up and it can only go down. The only 2 ways it can go. And if it's not us, who's going to bring it down, right? And this is what the 3 of us want to spend the rest of our life doing. Is we want to lower that number. And we want to lower that number. We want to lower that number. We want to lower that number. That's what we want our legacy to be. That's what we hope that you want your legacy to be. See, here's what we're clear on. We're clear on who we are, what we want to do, where we want to do it, how we want to do it, and when we want to do it. The only thing we're not clear on is who we're going to do it with. You guys get to decide who we're going to do that with. Is there anybody in the room that wants to be a part of the who when we pull this off? Over the last 3 years, we've, and 2 million plus people later, we've been able to get a really good understanding of what the challenge is. And I want to help you guys now today get a little bit bigger idea of what the challenge is and what we're doing. You know, I need to buy Paul's, the company. I need to buy at least some stock in this place because I eat about 100 of these things every 2 days. So, I want to give you guys some insight. Is anybody recording this? Anybody recording this that can easily be uploaded digitally? Yes? Because we need to cut this next 15 minutes and get this back out. So I want to talk to you guys about what we've come to understand what the challenge really is today after 3 years. And it starts with the shape. And the shape, you know, being a starting point for people. The shape being a path of least resistance. And I think I'm going to give you guys an explanation that you're going to be, like us, kind of surprised that go, wow, I didn't understand the type of impact we were making on people's lives. And the true influence that the challenge has on people's lives. See, I want you to think of this stage as a health scale, right? Like this is one end of the scale, really unhealthy, and this is the other end of the scale, as healthy as you get. And on this end of the scale over here is fast food junkie. Fast food all the time, junk food all the time, that's their lifestyle. And on this end of the scale is the opposite of bacon double cheeseburger and Dorito, is, you know, algae, tree bark, mulch, and twig and berries. Does anybody know junk food, fast food person? Only that many people know that person? Let's try this again. Raise your hand if you know somebody that is the junk food, fast food person. Yes. You guys remember we're in the South, right? You can't lie to me. I know the data. Now, anybody know the twig and berry person on the other end of the spectrum, right? So we got the fast food person. life, and you'll be fabulous. And fast food, junk food is looking at going, you crazy? I don't want to look at that stuff, let alone smell that stuff, let alone taste that stuff, let alone having to taste that stuff consistently over and over again for the remainder of my life. I think I'll pass, Twig and Berry. Twig and Berry over here, they don't understand what makes people tick. They think they can change everything about health food, fast food guy in a 10-second conversation. It's easy. Eat some twigs, eat some berries, have some mulch here. I ground some up for here. Try this, right? And you can't change decades worth of programming in 30 seconds. You can't. The average age of our customer is 43 years old. Let's take it back to when this problem started, when they were 5. When they were 5 years old, they went to school, and every day, from age 5 to age 18, they got some square pizza that they dipped in ranch, with a side of tater tots that they dipped in ranch, with a side of Little Debbie cakes, with a side of chocolate milk, and with a side of fruit that came from a can that was 100% sugar, from first grade all the way to 12th grade, true and true. Some days you got like the octagon pizza was orange. If you didn't get the square one, you got the orange octagon one. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. That's what I thought. From age 5 to age 18, every day, something just like that. Age 18, they go to college. I mean, anybody who's ever been to college, this is, you don't have to be, a rocket scientist here to figure out what I'm going to say next. Anybody who's ever been to college knows there is money for 2 things, and 2 things only. Beer, and then it's in this order of priority. Beer and ramen noodles, and that's it. True? So, for 6 years, you eat beer and ramen noodles. Sometimes you warm the ramen noodles up with beer. And 6 years later, you finally get your 4-year degree. and you get your first job. And everybody knows the first job, you're the lowest paying person, you work twice as hard as everybody else, you come in early, you stay late, you want to impress the boss, you want the raise, you're hungry, you're eager. So there's no time for any food, nor any money for any food but vending machine, junk food, fast food. And then even worse, you still think you're in college, so once you get done at work at 7, you're always somewhere at the bar for happy hour with your buddies having chicken wings and a couple more beers, right? Then you get married, you have some kids. And when you get married, you have some kids, that whole story I told earlier, Pop-Tart, toaster strudel, Fruity Pebbles, off to work, grab a Danish, a coffee, pizza, vending machine, fast food, drop the kids off at practice, French fry, Diet Coke story, and then you're 43. So for 38 years, that's been your diet. And Tweetyberry's like, no, you just drink some grass and you crunch it up and you pour it in some oats and you're fine. Do you guys see a disconnect here? There's a bit of a disconnect. Enter the path of least resistance. See, our shake is the path of least resistance to move somebody from there down this path. See, what they do is they show up at your challenge party all the way over here. Fast food, junk food. They show up at your challenge party and they grab the taster cup, the shake. First thing they do. Second thing they do. What are they looking underneath the cup for? Are they looking for drinking time. And they take a drink. They look up at the sky. It's not bad. Raise your hand if that's exactly what you did the first time you had a shake. Everybody, right? Not bad. I don't hate it. I mean, I suppose it has cake-like properties. And I can get my money back? All right, I'll buy some. 2 weeks later, Project 10, they're down 10 pounds. This same person who 2 weeks ago was like, it's not bad. They're on Facebook going, it's a cake mix, it tastes like a shake mix, it tastes magical. You don't believe this stuff. It's the greatest thing that's ever touched my lips. It's amazing. True? 2 weeks later, yeah, we'll call it, they're 45 days in. They're down, 20 pounds. Like, this is unbelievable. All I've done is drink some of those magic shakes. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make a choice. I'm gonna make a lifestyle choice here. I'm going to, for my healthy snack that we recommend in between shakes, I'm going to stop eating Cheetos for my healthy snack.